All right, what is up, guys? So I did something really cool this past weekend, something I've been planning all year long, and that was to have my own Yu-Gi-Oh tournament at my house with all my friends that play the game. There was a total of 9 of us. I was the ref slash judge, and there was 8 participants, and it went really well. The style of this tournament was everyone was going to build their deck from scratch from cards I had handpicked from bulk. And the reason I did that is everybody who was playing is fairly new to the game with a few exceptions. And so I wanted to handpick cards that were easy to understand, fun to play with, and not extremely overpowered. To where we're going to have this cool limited format with a lot of back and forth gameplay, and it was very successful. There was a huge variety of strategies, lots of creative deck building, and every single game was a lot of back and forth. It wasn't incredibly one-sided. It wasn't the boring gameplay of, okay, I can't respond to my opponent, so I'm going to sit back and watch them combo off for 15 minutes that the modern game can be if, things don't go your way. And so it was part draft cube, part limited format, part, retro format, alternate ban list nonsense. So it was, build your deck from bulk, build your deck from scratch, build your deck in a limited format where the cards are handpicked and are simpler, more to understand. And I actually would really love to publish this draft cube in a way where you guys can see the cards I picked for it, but it's a massive list of cards, but I will eventually document it in hopes that we can continue to play this, little format at the house. But I want to show all the decks that everybody made and talk about how it went. Now, I didn't do this the day we actually did the tournament because out of respect for the people participating, some of them didn't want to appear on camera, so I said that's totally fine, I will just do the deck profiles later. And so naturally some of these decks have already been unsleeved because it's the next day. So first off, we have the Penguin deck that my friend Shannon played. So it basically has all of the Penguin cards from Battle of Chaos, which is pretty interesting. So you got the Penguin Squire, the Penguin Ninja, the Penguin Cleric, all at 3, Penguin Soldier, and then Nightmare Penguin. And so basically what you're trying to do with this deck is you're trying to recycle the flip effects of cards like Penguin Soldier to maintain control and advantage over your opponent. So the Synchro Monster, the Penguin Brave, accomplishes that. And the Penguin Squire is a free special summon if you have a monster set face down. And it can sort of, it's almost like a modern Goat Control style game plan. And she combined that with some other water monsters. We have this Ice Knight here, Silent Sea Nettles. There was other water strategies in the pile, like there was a Shark deck that would be a great rank 4 toolbox deck, and a deck to let you make Bahamut Shark and then Totally Awesome. I did put Totally Awesome in here, but there are very, very, very few Omni Negates or just Negates in general in this limited format. But Toad is one of them, but I made it to where it was limited to 1 copy. I did create a limited list for this format, but I did not create a ban list. Only 1 copy of Royal Penguin Garden in this bulk, a Penguin Sword, Monster Reborn, Change of Heart, Dark Hole, all of those were limited. She's got a Galaxy Cyclone in there for back row removal. A double summon, which is probably, if I had seen this before we went live, I probably would have told her to take this out because it's not very synergistic with the Penguins. They don't really normal summon all that much. Shallow Grave was an interesting choice because you can reset your flip effect monsters from the graveyard back to the field, so Penguin Soldier gets more value. Forbidden Chalice, Smashing Ground, and then Traps. I limited all of the Mirror Forces, but she still decided to stack up on all of them, and these were all extremely powerful in limited format like that. We got Michizure. I took a lot of the good rares and commons and stuff out of the 20th anniversary boxes that I opened, such as Pharaoh's Servants. That's why we've got cards like that in there. We've got Bottomless, Call the Haunted, Kunai with Chain. This is a card from bulk from Photon Hypernova, and this was an incredible card in this format. So I'm sorry, I've got spray paint on my hands. I've tried to scrub it off as best I could, but so this is a card that is just bulk. There's a lot of cards that are common pack filler in modern sets that just do crazy bonkers things and are really fun to play with in limited formats. So I made sure to include as many of those types of cards in this format as possible. So there's a lot of cards like this that just do crazy bonkers things, but you would never play them in Modern Constructed because they're just not very good. So this requires, it's basically Call the Haunted with extra steps, where it requires you to have at least 3 monsters in your graveyard, and then you reveal 3 of them, pick one of them, and your opponent decides if you get that one or the other 2. So it's potentially a, you know, double monster revival kind of situation. So that was the main deck for Shannon's Penguin deck. I probably shouldn't have spread all these out when they don't have sleeves like that. With her extra deck, we didn't fully finish it. We should have gone back and added more cards to it, but we've got Water Charmer, Abyss Keeper, a Decode Talker, some synchros. We've got Tatsunoko. We've got 3 copies of Penguin Brave. This was the main one she was going into. Toad, if she's managed to get 2 Penguin Soldier, and then a Sky Cavalry Centurion, which is the another rank 2 payoff. In hindsight, I wish I would have gone back and made sure she got the White Aura Whale, because that is another synchro that can be made exclusively with water monsters. And nobody else picked a water strategy, so I should have made sure that she went back and got that. Onto Mikel's deck, and frankly, his was the most challenging to decide on a cohesive strategy, because he was going back and forth between a couple different things and taking a little while. So I was trying to get him to play a like Cyburst pile deck, because a lot of the Cyburst monsters special summon themselves for free, and then link climbing into stuff like Firewall Dragon or Topologic Bomber Dragon, Topologic Zeroboros, or a Raster Liger is some really powerful payoffs that I put in this format. But we've eventually just ended on something. So we have these, we have the Starry Night cards, which are a Konami fan favorite, it seems like, or a Konami favorite, where Konami really likes to push these guys on us in things like Master Duel, but nobody really likes to play them because they're not that good. But in a limited format like this, you never know, they might actually have some potential. So I wish I had more copies of all of them, but I did put the Starry Night cards in this format, and we tried to take advantage of that. The other package in here was sort of a Felgrand package, where we're sending dragons from deck to grave to set them up. So we've got 2 Paladin, 3 Arc Brave, 2 out of the Felgrand itself, and then nobody else picked the Dragon Link strategy. Like, there was so many like rockets and stuff in there, and I really wish somebody had gone all in on the Dragon strategy and made like a proper Dragon Link deck, because I also included a couple of banned cards in here, including Hulk and Chaos Ruler, and I was just waiting to see if somebody would pick up on that and pick up the strategy, but nobody did. So he went all in on the Starliege Seyfarts, which is a good choice in a deck like this. We went with Raiden, Lightsworn, to mill some cards on the top of the deck to potentially get those higher level dragons in the graveyard so you don't brick on them. And then a couple Warrior Extenders as Blue Mountain Butterspy. And I made sure that he also had some Chaos monsters like the Chaos Baby Dragons in order to go into. Guardian of Order is a nice light extender for a deck like this. Chaos Sorcerer. The new Kaiser Glider, which is a pretty strong monster in a limited format, and then 1 Honest. There was actually only 1 Honest in this bulk pile. Otherwise, I would have been happy to let him have more than 1 copy. And then onto the Spells and Traps, we've got, of course, the Starry Night cards, Dragon Shrines to be able to send dragons from deck to grave. I really wish I had more copies of this to put in the bulk, in the pile for him to pick from. I can only find 1 copy to put in at the last minute. Otherwise, that would be a mandatory 3-of in a deck like this. Dragon Ravine, same thing. Here's another funny gimmicky card, speaking of the Summonite, or whatever it's called, the trap card. Summon Dice. So this was a really funny gimmicky card that I decided to put in this format that could potentially have a pretty strong payoff. You pay 1,000 and you do a dice roll, and depending on the dice roll, you get to special summon some monsters. So people were definitely experimenting with those more gimmicky cards, and it did have some pretty funny results. Pot of Avarice, I probably would not have recommended he included that had I paid attention at the last minute, but I didn't want to like affect the deck choices too much. Monster Born is a good choice. Offerings to the Doom, Dark Hole, and for traps, Call the Haunted back to the front, and a Summonite as well. Probably could have done with some more defensive traps, but being able to recycle monsters is pretty key. This is definitely a more aggro deck, and then the The Summon Knight, again, is just these 2 cards with extra steps. So didn't have the best record with this deck, but I think it is a good idea in concept. The Starry Night cards probably could have been a little bit more fleshed out if I had more copies, but I made sure to give him some good generic stuff in the extra deck to compensate for it as well. So for Link monsters, we have the Brute Enforcer. This is a really good generic Link 2 in a limited format. Security Dragon, same thing. We've got the Raster Liger for a Link 4 payoff, Top Logic Zeroboros. And then for rank 4s, we've got Tornado Dragon, Utopia, Castel, Giant Hand, Heartland Draco, Silent Honor Arc, Starlight Paladynamo, because you're making you're playing with light level 4s, and then a rank 8 for the Felgrand payoff, because again, nobody was going into like the Blue Eyes package I put into this whole thing, so we needed a good rank 8 to go into, and that was one of the ones that I felt like was the appropriate power level for this format. I didn't want to do any, Dragoblion, Numeron Dragon, OTK nonsense. On to my friend Jonathan's deck, and he definitely played the Wombo comboiest deck of anybody. So he played a Warrior Toolbox deck that uses some Dark Warrior cards, it uses some Infernoble cards, and it uses some Hero cards. And with more time to practice the combos, he would have been unstoppable with this deck. But it was definitely kind of like, okay, throw this in here, let's go, let's go, let's go. So we've got an Armageddon Knight and 2 Malicious, which is essential any kind of Dark Warrior strategy like that. For the other heroes, we've got a Stratos and 2 Bubble Man, the Evil Hero Infernal Prodigy, Edison staple there for hero decks. 1 Vion, you can search off the Stratos, and if you need to get Stratos off of a Soleil to get this guy to get your Poly, it all kind of worked out the same way. So small hero package. I don't think there was many other heroes in the pile. I wanted to kind of just pick the best heroes that I had multiple copies of that I could provide to this kind of bulk pile. And then for the other warrior stuff, 3 Sublimation Knight, and the Squeak Knight, which is a great way to get to Isolde. A lot of people remember this from the first iteration of Infernoble back in 2020. And now he just doesn't see any play in competitive anymore because Neospace Connector is strictly better, and then there's other combos you can do, and there's the Battle Boxer stuff and all that. Got Colonel on a C-String, which is like a Marauding Captain, but it's a more high-rolly version of Marauding Captain to kind of get your warriors on the field there. So really cool card there, very gimmicky limited format card. For Infernoble Knights, we've got 2 Ogier, 2 Oliver, a Turpin, which is an extra one I pulled. So I own 3 of these because I have fully constructed Infernoble and the Adventure version. I've got 1 copy of Turpin in each, so this is a 3rd one I can provide to the bulk pile, which is pretty cool. Astolfo, Magus, 1 Phoenix Gearfried. So I put 1 Phoenix Gearfried in this pile because this card is, much like Totally Awesome, one of the only Omni Negates in here, and this card could win games entirely on its own if the player knows what they're doing. So I was very hesitant to put this guy in here because I feel like if somebody recognized how powerful he is, that they would just build a whole strategy around him. But it didn't actually come up all that often for Jonathan, so I don't regret including it in the limited format. It was fine at 1. So I've got the Heroic Challengers, the Assault Halberd, and the Morningstar, which is bulk from, Difo? Yeah, so these cards ended up being pretty cool. I didn't see him go into the rank 4s all that often. He kind of just stuck with those main deck monsters on board and just kind of attacked with them and just kept up that field presence. So he didn't really consolidate them into Xyz monsters very much, which might have been a nice little... and that might have been a strategic decision for him as far as I don't want to consolidate my resources into 1 Xyz monster. I want to kind of keep them on the board. But I don't know. 3 Hero Lives, 3 Miracle Fusion, a Durandal, a Joyous, an Arthedatur, Living Fossil, or the Eclipse to send off of Isolde. We got the 1 Rhoda. Rhoda was limited in this format, obviously. The 1 Ecall. I have several copies of Instant Fusion and Ready Fusion for this format, and lots of targets for each, so I figured those would be fun. And they're both limited as well, so he picked up a copy of each one. Again, this is the Wombo-iest, Combo-iest deck. The 1 Poly that you search off the Vion, of course. And Forbidden Chalice, Forbidden Lance, Enemy Controller, and then another gimmicky card. This one is actually brand new out of Dune, out of Duelist Nexus, Over Exaggeration. Read this card. It is a hilarious battle trick. So I figured I wanted to put as many copies of this in the bulk pile as possible, and I kind of nudged some people like, you should totally play that, you should totally play that. And I didn't actually hear any of the players tell me that it ever came up, but very, very funny battle trick. And no traps in this. This was a all balls to the wall combo deck, made to go first pretty much, or go second. The Link monsters, we do have the one in Isolde here as a payoff for the warrior strategy. So he was able to take advantage of that. Juvenator Transverser, put in plenty copies of her. He's got a Link 4 payoff in Topologic Bomber Dragon. He's got the instant fusion target and the ready fusion target in Carbonella Warrior and Guilty of the Dark Knight. These are just, like I said, instant fusion or ready fusion targets. And the Guilty can be tuned with Oliver to make Charlemagne. So that's kind of a nice, easy bridge there. Of course, you lose out on the Roland quick effect pop, but it is what it is. We got some hero fusions, the Omni heroes, the good ones, Nova Master, Great Tornado, Stephen King's Elemental Hero, and Absolute Zero. I didn't put any mass changes or dark laws in this format because I wanted absolutely zero, no pun intended, no zero pun intended, absolutely zero floodgates in this format. Not a single floodgate. There are control and stun decks in here, but there are zero floodgates, and so no dark law. That card is just, I hate it. So, and of course the Roland and the Charlemagne for the synchro payoffs for the Infernoble strategy. He actually did summon Charlemagne at least twice from what I saw, and then some powerful rank 4s. Of course, we've got the Heroic Champion Excalibur because we're on a warrior strategy. We've got a Utopia, and we've got the new heroic rank 4. The Clivus Solish or whatever it's called. I don't remember him ever going into those guys, but it definitely would have been powerful if he did. So this is the deck that I threw together haphazardly for my friend Lainey. She was one of the first people to arrive, but unfortunately she couldn't stay and play out the entire event. But she was having a hard time deck building, so I threw together this idea for her because I said, this is just a crazy crackpot idea, and I think it'll be funny if it works. So I made a Fable Dark World Chaos deck. So this is actually a strategy that an old friend of mine played way back in the day, like 2010, 2011 kind of era, where you would discard with the Fabled Raven, discard the Dark World monsters, and they special summon themselves, and then you can make level 8 synchros. So we've got the 3 Ravens and the 2 Cerebel. When they're discarded, they're special summoned and they're level 2 tuners. And then we have, they're also lights, which helps with the chaos side of this. And then for the Dark Worlds, we've got the 3 Beige as a level 4 that special summons itself, so we can make a level 7 synchro. And then we've got the 2 Gold, 2 Silva, discard one of these, and Fabled Raven becomes a level 3, make a level 8 synchro. And I put Chaos Ruler in this deck, which was very funny, and although it didn't come up all that often. And then as for the Chaos monsters, we've got 2 Chaos Sorcerer, a BLS. BLS I made limited in this format, and I don't think anybody else actually picked up the other copies of him that were in the bulk. I don't think their strategies necessarily allowed for it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I wanted people to be able to play this, but nobody really chose to aside from this deck. We've got a Chaos Daedalus, which doesn't really, its effect never comes up because we're not really playing field spells or anything in this. We've got a Light Pulsar Dragon, a Chaos Dragon Levianeer, the Baby Chaos Dragons. We've got a Diana, the Light Spirit. I wanted to get the Dark Spirit as well, but I couldn't find any in my bulk. This is a Banish the Light from the Graveyard, summon it for free. It's a light version of Gigantes. We've got a Stygian Street Patrol, 2 Evil Swarm Mandragora. This is one of the many numerous level 4 summon a guy for free type cards that I put in this pile because I wanted people to be able to make rank 4 toolbox decks. So I put as many cards like that as possible that were just summon a guy for a level 4 guy for free. And it's a dark, so it checks out. And another dark is this guy recently printed in the last Battles of Legend, the Ghost Lancer, the Underworld Spearman. This card is crazy in a limited format. It's like it's a better Cyber Dragon. It has less attack, slightly less attack, but it deals piercing. and it can't be destroyed by anything by a monster summoned from the extra deck. So I had this guy limited as well, and I don't think anybody else picked him up, but I had plenty of copies of him in this bulk pile. This card is insane. I also gave away a copy of the new Battles of Legend as an entry pack for everybody that participated in this, and I gave away some prizes for the first and second place winners. So I gave away one of these Gold Pride playmats, and I gave away a Trap Trick Structure deck as well. So a Kaiser Vorse Raider is another level 5 dark extender like that. You can synchro with the Fabled Ravens if you want, and then a hand trap, a Skullmeister. The only hand traps I put in this pile was Effect Veiler and Skullmeister, and there were not really enough copies of them to go around, so I limited them as well. But this format was so back and forth, there wasn't really much of a need for hand traps like that. And then on the spells, I've got Usherborn, Darkhold, Change of Heart, Book of Moon, Mind Control, Smashing Ground, Enemy Controller, Fissure, the gimmicky Summon Dice as well, MST, Heavy Storm Duster, Compulse, Quaking Mirror Force, Torrential Mirror Force, Trap Hole, the Summon Knight, and a Fiendish Chain. So not bad. She did a pretty good job with the cards I gave her building this deck. Didn't really have the best win rate, but I thought it was really funny and really gimmicky. And on to the extra deck. We've got a Nightmare Phoenix, of course. That was the only Nightmare card I put in this pile. On hindsight, I probably should have put some Nightmare Cerberus in there as well, but I did not want to put Nightmare Unicorn in there because I figured that one was a little bit too powerful. We've got, of course, Decode Talker. There was Decode Talkers for everybody around. And I gave her a copy of probably the most powerful Link monster in a limited format like this. There were very, 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 very few things that could get rid of this guy. One of the things that could do it was Drowning Mirror Force. It shuffles it back to the extra deck and it doesn't target. But other than that, very few cards could deal with this guy. He was unstoppable, but she didn't get to make this guy all that often. So considering whether or not I want to leave him in the pile or take him out, because under the right circumstances, he's just kind of unbeatable. A couple rank 4s, Honor Arc and Castel, because we do have the Mandragoras that are level 4s. And we have the Synchro. So we have the Golden Cloud Beast Maolong, which is a cool level 6 generic Synchro. Has a pretty decent effect. And then we have 2 of the Chaos Beasts. That's our other level 6 Synchro. This guy was pretty awesome. He can boost himself to 3k and recycle one of your banished Light and Dark monsters. We've got this guy, is a common out of Duelist Nexus. The, what is it, Kuibelt the Blade Dragon he's a pop on summon, and he's a 2500 level 7 generic Dark Dragon Synchro, so that's pretty cool. And then we've got the Chaos Archfiend, who is a step down from Chaos Angel. You probably are not as familiar with this card as much as you are with Chaos Angel. And then we've got the Chaos Ruler, which of course is banned in the TCG, but I decided to put him in this limited format just to see what people could do with him. We've got Groza, the Tyrant of Thunder, who is a generic level 8 Synchro. Not completely generic, because he needs a non-tuner Fiend monster, which you can absolutely do with this setup. And he's potentially a negate. He's just a little bit more limited than he is in other formats. Well, a little bit more limited than other types of negations. So, and then other generic level 8 Synchros, we've got a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend and a Draco Berserker. So, summoned this guy once and won the game with it. That was pretty cool. On to my friend Kat's deck. So Kat was awesome throughout this event, and she put together a deck that combined the Gaia strategies from Return of the Duelist with the Floral Knight strategies from Legendary Duelist Synchro Storm. 2 very much like pack filler forgotten strategies, but are potentially extremely deadly in a limited format. We kind of just called this horse deck, and it ended up being pretty powerful. She actually had quite a bit of success with it. So first of all, we have, of course, the Gaia cards. There's the 2 Artillery Catapult Turtle. It's just Lone Fire Blossom for any of the Gaia or Curse of Dragon cards. 3 of the Gaia the Fierce Knight Origin. And then I think 2 of the Gaia Magical Knight and 2 of the Curse of Dragon Curse Dragon, which gets you the search for the fusion spell, which is pretty cool. And then Curse of Dragonfire lets you do a fusion while it's on the field as well. So in a limited format, if you can't stop the fusion summon of this guy with the fusion spell, you're cooked. This thing is going to absolutely eat you alive. And it did. She stole quite a few games with that guy, and I'll talk about it more when we get the extra deck. As for the Floral Knights, we have the horse, and we have the other horse. Little did I know, I should have found another copy of this and let her play 3 of it, because this is actually a 1-card combo to Chevalier de Fleur, which again is not as powerful as Baroness, that you're probably familiar with, but at least it only is a 1-card combo to get to her. So you are able to search that and get the Noble Knight Spearholder, which is what lets you do the fusion for Centaur Mina. And then it revives this guy, and this guy treats the Centaur Mina as Fleur Synchron, and then you fuse into Chevalier de Fleur, which is pretty cool. And then we've got the Noble Knight Shield Bearer, and I was so proud of her too, because she was like, I figured out a 1-card combo in my strategy, and I'm like, that's awesome. We're learning. We're like really learning fundamentals of deck building and gameplay here, and I just think that's awesome. A couple other generic warrior support cards in here. So we've got 2 Marauding Captains. You can get this plus the Gaia Origin Knight on the field is pretty nice. The Heroic Challenger Assault Halberd. I didn't talk about this much in Jonathan's warrior deck, but I put as many copies of this in the bulk pile as well, because again, it's just a free warrior body extender, and it's really powerful in a limited format just to give you just another body on the field. You got this Guardian of Order here, which I don't know if that ever came up for her, because I don't know how many lights she's actually running. Not many. Most of all of, only the Noble Knight Spearholder and Shield Barrier are lights. So I don't know if this ever actually came up for her, but she also put in a Raikou for spot removal, a Effect Veiler, and then the Tempest. And Tempest was a way to search the Curse of Dragon. I think it lets you do that. Does it let you add a wind monster, or is that even a wind, or is it a dark? It's a dark, so maybe that doesn't work after all. But the idea was just, you know, it's also a body in and of itself. So I guess that maybe that came out, maybe it didn't. I didn't, you know, sit over her shoulder for all of her games. But for the spells, we've got the 3 Spiral Fusion, the 3 Galloping Gaia, which lets you reveal one of the materials to get the other material from your deck. So overall, this guy's extremely easy to fusion summon, which is awesome. And then we've got Rhoda, and Rhoda of the Army's Troops, which is an interesting warrior card that for some reason was a common that got a rarity upgrade to ultra rare in last year's Megatins. So maybe that's why I included it in the bulk pile. Book of Moon, MST, Monster Reborn, Dark Hole, excellent choices there. For traps, we've got Trap Hole, Michizure. Windstorm of Itaqua ended up coming up a lot for her. She stopped a lot of battle phases with this. It was basically like a slightly worse threatening roar, but had basically the same effect. And also the fact that some monsters were able to be put in defense made it to where on the crackback she could come back and destroy them. So it ended up being a very interesting choice, but a very powerful trap nonetheless in this format. We've got a Call of the Haunted, we've got Fairy Wind, we've got double Fiendish Chain, Bottomless, Smear Force, and a Summon Knight, which everybody seemed to be playing. And I laughed every time that card was resolved, because no matter what the opponent picked, the player activating it was getting a lot of advantage off of it. We have Michelle's deck, and Michelle played, I was super proud of her for this. She made a just absolutely brilliantly made deck. Like, all of the card choices were excellent, very well made deck, and it was a Melfi Sprite Tri-Brigade deck. And so it uses minimal cards from each respective engine, but it's basically just a beast control deck that took advantage of the best parts of all of those. And when she had to go on the aggro side, the Tri-Brigade cards really come up. There's very minimal Tri-Brigade cards in here, but there was one Shurag, so it did come up. So of course, she was playing the 3 Melfi Rabby to summon off of Rescue Cat, or Rescue Rabbit, which was a 2 of. In hindsight, maybe it'd been better to play 3 and 2, but I'm not going to question it. I only put 1 Rescue Cat in this bulk pile because I figured it would be pretty powerful, so I wanted to limit how many copies of that were available for people. We've got 3 copies of Nimble Beaver, which is very powerful in this deck, as it is in modern Sprite decks. 2 Tri-Brigade Kit, which was huge. This is the card that allowed her to use the graveyard effect to banish from the graveyard to link summon for, you know, Rugal and Shurag, which was pretty cool. Minimal copies of the actual Melfi cards, which is interesting, and no Melfi Caddy. I don't know if I just didn't have one to put in the bulk pile or what happened, but only one Puppy, one Penny, and one Fenny. It was the only things I had to put Melfi-wise in here, or it's the only ones that she decided to choose from. Fabled Cerebell, just like what I had. Kalantosa to summon off of the Puppy effect to get a pop on your opponent's turn, which is really strong. She opened the Kalantosa in a frustrating amount of times, and she showed me when it happened, and it's like, well, what can you do? We got sprites. We got a Sprite Red, a Sprite Carrot. These, I think, are the only ones that were available in here, and there may have been more copies of them, but it's kind of just like, you know, it's a little extender. I was thinking about putting Gigantic Sprite in here to search these, but I figured that would be a little bit too powerful in this format. Another bulk card out of Duelist Nexus. So we have Behemoth, the King of 100 Battles, and we're playing 3 of this. This card is insane in a limited format where you're playing a beast deck. It was a massive aggro option and a massive control option. Like, read this card if you haven't already. This card ended up being insane in this limited format, and she got a lot of uses out of it. And the one effect Veiler, and that's it for the monsters. For the spells, we have the one Painful Decision. Would like for her to have been able to play 2 of this because it helps her get to you know, helps her summon a Melfi Rabby from the deck and go into stuff more easily. But we had to spare another copy for Sam's deck, who needed a copy of it. We've got Book of Moon, Monster Reborn, MST, Change of Heart, Mind Control, another Over-Exaggeration, Smashing Ground. For the spells, excellent choices there. And for the traps, we've got one Tri-Brigade Revol. I don't think she ever was able to resolve this because I think she always ended up making Shurag as part of like an aggro, like making him on her own turn to attack with, rather than relying on Revol to stop her opponent from doing something. Drowning Mirror Force, Solemn Judgment, Compulse, Storm Mirror Force, Regular Mirror Force, Torrential Call, Haunted, Floodgate Trap Hole, which absolutely screwed some people over hardcore by having their monster be dead on the field and not being able to do anything with it. And then one Bottomless. Very, very, very well put together deck. I was very impressed with how well she did with this. And then the extra deck, of course, we've got the Melfi Mommy and 2 Melfi of the Forest. No Joyous Melfis in this pile. I don't think I had any to put in the pile was the problem, but these did pretty well. Phantom Eyes of Curse Javelin is another rank 2 payoff. Sky Cavalry Centauria ended up being like the main one she would go for. And she regarded many times throughout the day how she was impressed with the power of this card. And was just like, man, I keep going for this guy because he's just so strong. And I was like, yeah, he's a good card. Keep it up. Soul Sweeper ended up outing a really powerful monster. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but it was like a really pain in the ass monster to get rid of, and she ended up getting rid of it with this and being able to steal that game away. Dark Mist probably would take this out of the pile. It requires 3 materials. I don't think she ever made it, and I'd probably just, it's not worth keeping in here. The one synchro is the Merry Melfis. I don't remember ever seeing that come up, but maybe it did. I'm sure she'll correct me. And for the Link monsters, we've got the one Asa, the Rugal, and the one Shurag. I made sure to put one Shurag in here so there was a payoff for Tri-Brigade, but there's no Farragut, so you can't like convert any other Beast or Beast Warrior type strategy into a Tri-Brigade strategy. You kind of had to go all in with the cards we had. There were also Nervals in the bulk pile, but I figured the Nervals would go better if somebody picked up the Lyrillist core that was also in there, and Michelle ended up not doing that, so she never asked for the Nervals and just ended up using the kits. And the kits are level 2B, so it works out perfectly for this strategy anyway. And then, of course, Topologic Bomber Dragon as the final Link 4 payoff. So, yeah, super, super proud of her. This was actually, like, she says she's bad at deck building. This was not a poorly made deck. It was a very well-made deck. Second to last here, this one's still sleeved up. I haven't taken this one out of the sleeves yet, obviously. My friend Chris, who's played the game probably the longest and most consistently out of anybody here, made a Firefist deck. And this was, when he was done with this, I said, low-key, this is the best deck at the table. This deck is incredible in a limited format like this. Only problem is he wasn't super comfortable with the Firefist cards and was having a hard time kind of figuring out combo lines and that kind of thing. But I think with enough practice, this was like the best deck at the table. So, we are cooking with 3 bear, 2 elephant, a dragon, a gorilla, a spirit, a rooster, a raven, and a hawk for the Firefist cards. I think it was pretty much every Firefist card that was available in the bulk pile. And only 1 Coach Soldier Wolfbark was available in the pile. I wish I had more copies, because we definitely would play more copies of this if we had some. Crazy card though. Guan Yun, Ancient Warriors Guan Yun. So I only had a couple of copies of this in the bulk pile, and I limited him because this card is crazy in limited formats. He's basically a slightly worse Pankratops. He doesn't have the quick effect part that makes Pankratops so powerful, because Pankratops usually always answers either several of your opponent's cards or one of their cards and one of their negates. Whereas this can't quite do that, but I didn't put Pankratops in this format because Pankratops would be absurd. However, this guy is, you know, almost as good in a limited format like this, where the power level is significantly lower, and there wasn't that many copies to go around. Only Chris picked up this guy, and he did come up, so very glad to see him go with that. Triple Tengu. Tengu is just insane in this deck, being able to, you know, replace itself, and it's great for control decks and rank 4 toolbox decks, so very happy to see that he picked up on that. Another generic level 4 extender that he went with was Photon Thrasher. I actually strongly advocated for Sakitama over this. We had plenty of copies of Sakitama in this bulk pile, and I think that would have been an objectively better card than this, but he did make some rank 4s with this before committing all the way to the Firefist strategy. A couple of Summoner Monks, again another level 4 guy, another one of the Heroic Challenger Assault Halberds. It seems like quite a few people were on that guy. Red Resonator, so this was an interesting choice because Red Resonator can create a situation where you're able to make horse prints, which gets you to Rooster, which gets you to Spirit, I think is how the combo goes. So it is a nice little combo enabler for Firefist, which is pretty cool. Onto the spells, of course, we have 3 Tenki, and we have, I don't think there was another Beast Warrior strategy in the format, so him taking all the Tenkis, I wasn't worried about that at all. 2 Tensu, and then he was actually playing 2 copies of the Summon Dice. I don't know if that actually ever came up or not. Very funny card though. Mouse Reborn, this is his Dark Hole he pulled out of his entry pack. I told him he could play it. And a very nice, you know, Secret Rare Dark Hole from the new Battles of Legend. He's also playing the Over Exaggeration, Mind Control, Forbidden Lance, Book of Moon, Rhoda, Forbidden Chalice. And then the traps, of course, is Mirror Force Torrential, Solemn Warning, and Solemn Judgment. Yeah, just expertly crafted deck. Very, very strong. Don't know how well it did. I actually don't think it did very well at all, but I don't think he was here to win. Just to have a good time, so it is what it is. And the extra deck for that, of course, is we've got Peacock, 2 Peacocks actually. We've got Firefighting Darumidal, which is huge in a Beast Warrior deck like this. We've got Raten the Heavenly General, which is a bulk card from Dawn of Majesty, I believe. Yeah, and this is a staple in Common Charity format. People are playing it a little bit in Modern Infernoble right now because it's a generic Link 3 warrior that can help you bridge to something more powerful. But very, very powerful card in this limited format, and potentially everybody could have put this in their extra deck, but they opted not to. I just don't think they realized how generic and powerful it was. His Link 4 payoff was Borolo Dragon, which was an excellent choice. I'm very glad he went with that. And then the 2 Synchros, of course, is just the Horse Prince, which I added at the absolute last minute. And the Kirin, which I don't think we were ever able to summon, but it is what it is. You don't really need that to win. For the Xyz, of course, Tiger King, Cardinal, Lion Emperor, Time Thief Redoer. There were only 2 Redoers in the entire bulk pile, one of which was donated by a friend to make sure there were more copies. So he got the 1 copy of Redoer, and Castel, Tornado Dragon, Silent Honor Arc, and Giant Hand. So lots of great rank 4s in there. Just the best kind of deck you can make in a format like this is just a rank 4 toolbox style deck. I really do believe that. And then finally, the deck that won the entire thing was my friend Sam. He won the Gold Pride playmat. He went 4-0 undefeated, and he was playing the Magic-Key Sous Ship deck, and he didn't have any experience with this strategy. It's a strategy I've played against him before, but he was just unstoppable with this, and ended up being really, really good. So he played the one Rescue Rabbit because you could either get to the Sous Ships or the Magic-Key guy with this. I'm showing this the wrong way. He's got 3 of the actual Magic-Key, Clavkiss is his name, for that strategy. And 1 Angel Trumpeter. It's to get a different attribute in the graveyard and to have a tuner, although I don't have another copy of the Magic-Key Synchro to really have a payoff for that. But this is usually the other vanilla that's played in Magic-Key decks. So I put it in the bulk pile as a payoff for Magic-Key, and he ended up putting it in there even though we didn't really have a specific use for it. But we've got the Mafteal. This card is insane. Thank God he's a hard once. We've got the 3 Gunkin Sous Ship Shari, which even in a simplified game state, this is still a 2K beater, and a lot of people were not prepared for that. We've got, I think he was only on 2 of Shari Red, which that's definitely a 3 of if you are familiar with this deck, but he still had a great success ratio with it. 2 of Uni, which helps you make the rank 5, which is one of the most powerful ones. 3 Ikura, and 3 Shurao, I think is how that's pronounced. 1 Skullmeister and 1 Effect Veiler. He got both of the hand traps in there. And then we've got the 3 Betos Busters and 3 Garrus Glassers. So he went all in on the Magic-Key Rituals as well. And we have 3 of the Fusion/Ritual spell, the Gun, the Maftea. This was a common reprint in the Megatins, so we sure appreciate that. 1 Magic-Key World, which was added at the last minute with the person that added the Redoer. So otherwise we wouldn't have a copy of that at all. We've got the Gunkin Sous Ship's Field Spell, which came up quite a bit. And we've got the other copy of Painful Decision, which was able to summon one of the Sous Ships or Magic-Key guys to the field from the deck. Monsterborn, Dark Hole, Magic-Key Unlocking, Solemn Judgment, and Mirror Force. This was also, like, next to the Warrior deck, the most Wombo-iest, Combo-iest deck possible, and he would usually end on multiple Xyz monsters, and quite frequently OTK. Some of his matches were over very quickly. He was pretty unstoppable with this deck. His extra deck, of course, was double Link Spider. Nobody else was able to take advantage of Link Spider because they weren't playing any vanillas. So we only had 2 in the bulk pile. He played both because his strategy was the only one that played. Actually, Michelle's deck played vanillas, but not enough of them to facilitate this guy being worth it. Nightmare Phoenix. He was also on the Ra-10 Heavily General, Topologic, 0 Boros as a Link 4 payoff, and actually 2 Bomber Dragon and Raster Liger as Link 4 payoffs. Keeping his extra deck very varied and not going too overboard, no pun intended, with the multiple copies of the Sous Ships. This was interesting. So we went with 1 copy of the Beast and 2 copy of the Magic-Key Fusion Dragon. It was 2 and 2, and I think he changed it at the last minute to fit something else in there. But there was more than 1 copy of the Beast in there. And then he actually only went with 1 copy of each of the Sous Ship Xyz monsters, just one of each. And ended up being plenty, and there was really no need to play more than that, even though there was plenty more than that in the pile. There was probably enough Sous Ship cards in there for people to have multiple Sous Ship decks across this tournament, but nobody else went for it. There was definitely more strategies than there were people to play them. And then the final extra deck card is the other Time Thief Redoer, which I know he made at least once. So yeah, that's it for all the decks that everybody else played. He went undefeated with that, and so I decided to play a little joke on him in the final round. I was going to have him play against me because I was judging the whole time and helping people through their combos and stuff. So I told him I was going to play him with the bulk deck I made from a store for $10. I got all this from a local store several months ago. I think I recorded some B-roll for a video I was talking about it, but this deck was what gave me the idea to do this limited format nonsense. So this was a Phantom Knight / Dark Warrior deck that I made completely out of bulk, and I would like literally $10 is what this whole thing cost me, and it was just awesome. And I did beat him in our goofy little finale match there, even though there was no, I still gave him the prize. He was still undefeated as far as I was concerned, but I just wanted to have a little bit of fun with him. So I was playing Armageddon Knight and 2 Malicious, and then 2 Blue Mountain Butter Spy as a Wear Extender, Junk Forward, and Kagemucha Knight. And that's it for the sort of generic warrior cards. And then for the Phantom Knights, I was on, again, I found all of this stuff in bulk at a like bookstore, not even at a like card store really. This was all like bulk that had been donated to them. And there was just so much good stuff in there. So 3 boots and 3 cloak. Not a single card from this comes out of my personal collection. 3 Sangreaves, 2 gloves, and 2 Cloven Helm. This is the worst one. You literally only play this one because it's a level 4 for some of the rank 4s we're playing into, and that did come up. But the other Phantom Knights are obviously a lot better. No Torn Scale, the best one, of course. No one's going to leave that in their bulk, ideally. 2 Singing Lanius, Raid Raptor Singing Lanius. Obviously, there was no 4 Strix in there either because that card's kind of expensive. So this was just if you draw it and you control an Xyz monster, it's an extender. But there was no 4 Strix to be able to enable that. So, and I found an Effect Veiler in the bulk as well. This is where it gets really crazy, I feel like, is all the powerful generic spells that were in the bulk. So there was 2 Twin Twister, Instant Fusion, and I do have a target for this. Dark Ruler No More was in the bulk at that store. Pot of Desires, Enemy Controller, Dark Hole, Book of Moon was all in that bulk there. It was just insane. I'm not saying that this deck is great or that it's unbeatable. In fact, I think it is of the power level of what mostly everybody else made here, and that's kind of why I wanted to make this limited format, because I was like, I would love for everybody to make their decks out of bulk, but most of the rest of the bulk there is like actual garbage, and I don't want everybody spending hours sifting through literally useless cards to try to find something playable. Let me just set aside all the stuff that's remotely playable first, so they can try to figure that stuff out later. So, traps, we found 2 Shade Brigandine, that's huge. 2 of Sword, 2 of Wings. I think there was more than 2 Wings in there, but I didn't want more than 2. Only 1 Fogblade in there, unfortunately. 1 Mist Claws. This card is terrible. Do not play it. I tried to make use of that in this format because, oh, it's the ultra rare that came in the Legendary Hero decks. It's very bad. Do not play this card. Torrential and Compulse. So just really powerful traps there. For the most part, good Phantom Knight cards. And then for the extra deck, I have my Instant Fusion target, which was Dragoness the Wicked Knight for level 3 shenanigans. I did have to, I told Sam, I said, I'm going to take 1 card out of the pile to add to this deck. 1 card. So we have Nightmare Phoenix, which I found in the bulk. So Cherubini was the 1 card I wanted to add from the bulk, and I did. And I do not regret it. It was awesome. And this is what actually allowed me to be able to do proper combos and everything. The bulk did have 2 Rusty Bardiche, though, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. So that's what really convinced me to make the Phantom Knight deck, because there was 2 of these guys in there. And this is one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite, Link monster of all time. So I was very happy that he was in there. These monsters, we've got Dante, we've got Shadow Lich, we've got Evil Swarm Thanatos and Evil Swarm Nightmare from the Legendary Hero decks as well. We've got Red Raptor Rise Falcon, which I don't know if I'd ever make that guy, but he's pretty cool. We've got Baguska, Castel, Raiders Knight, Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, and Dark Requiem Xyz Dragon. The only thing we were missing was the rank up spell, so we technically could not make this guy with his negate. He was basically just a beater, but he was a beater that won me a game against Sam, so it is what it is. So, all right, time to unsleeve these other decks and put all this crap back in bulk, and I guess we'll do this again sometime. I had a lot of fun, and so did everybody that participated, so you guys should probably try something like this too with your friends. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot more back and forth gameplay in a limited format like this where everybody's just making rank 4s and playing spot removal on each other. It's way more fun than the modern game, even though I do love the modern game. I'm not one of those boomers that avoids the modern game. I still love the modern game, but this is just something different if you're tired of that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.